The arrogant recruit lunged forward, grabbing the female drill instructor in front of everyone. Silence fell over the training room as the other soldiers froze in disbelief. But their shock lasted only seconds. In one fluid motion, she countered with devastating precision, her sleeve pulling back to reveal a tattoo no one expected to see. The cocky soldier now lay pinned to the mat, desperately tapping out as phones recorded what would become a military reckoning. Nobody knew her true background, or how this single moment would transform military culture forever. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you appreciate stories of courage and justice, please consider subscribing for more. The early morning fog clung to Fort Artemis like a second skin, gradually yielding to the persistent summer sun. Master Sergeant Kieran Thorne moved silently down the line of recruits standing at attention, her boot heels striking the pavement with metronome precision. 4 years as a drill instructor had taught her how to command presence without raising her voice, a skill she had mastered long before arriving at this particular base. "Straighten that collar, Private," she said quietly to a nervous young woman whose uniform showed signs of a rushed morning. The recruit complied instantly, eyes forward, not daring to make direct contact. From his office window overlooking the parade ground, Captain Adarin Blackwood observed the inspection with a furrowed brow. On his desk lay Thorne's transfer paperwork, conspicuous black redactions obscuring significant portions of her service record. He lifted his phone, dialing a familiar extension. "She's integrating well enough," he said without preamble, "but I still question why she was sent here. Her qualifications seem excessive for basic training." He listened for a moment, frowning deeper. "Understood. I'll keep it contained." On the parade ground, Private First Class Reed Donovan shifted his weight subtly, catching the attention of recruits on either side of him. At 23, Donovan carried himself with the confidence of someone who had been told his entire life that military service was his birthright. Third-generation Army, with a colonel father currently placed at the Pentagon, he had arrived at Fort Artemis expecting respect based on his name alone. "10 Hut," barked Sergeant Brinley Winters as Thorne approached Donovan's section. As Thorne methodically inspected uniforms, Donovan whispered to the recruit beside him, loudly enough to be overheard. "My father says women cannot handle real combat pressure. They are just filling quotas." Several recruits tensed visibly. Thorne paused, her expression revealing nothing, as she slowly turned toward Donovan. Their eyes met briefly, her calm assessment against his challenging stare. "Name?" she asked, though she already knew. "Private First Class Reed Donovan, Master Sergeant," he replied, a hint of emphasis on her rank that bordered on insubordination. "Your uniform is within regulations, Private Donovan," she said evenly. "Your attitude, however, needs adjustment. 5 extra miles on your run today." "Yes, Master Sergeant," he replied, the muscle in his jaw tightening. As Thorne moved on, a flash of memory crossed her mind. Unbidden, unwelcome. Dark waters off a foreign coast. The weight of specialized equipment. The absolute silence required for the mission. She pushed the memory away. That was not her life anymore. Private Zephyr Hayes, standing 3 recruits down from Donovan, noticed something others missed. The way Thorne's right hand briefly touched the inside of her left wrist, where her sleeve covered what might have been a scar. Hayes had been watching the new drill instructor since her arrival 2 weeks ago, noting small details that seemed inconsistent with standard Army training. By afternoon, the temperature had climbed to 93 degrees. Heat radiated from the obstacle course in visible waves as recruits gathered for combat readiness training. Thorne stood before them, her uniform immaculate despite the heat. "Combat does not wait for ideal conditions," she announced. "Today's objective is to complete the course under 15 minutes while maintaining weapon discipline." To demonstrate, Thorne moved to the starting position. Without hesitation, she navigated the course with an efficiency that made it look deceptively simple. Her movements were precise, economical, never wasting energy on unnecessary motion. She cleared each obstacle with a practiced ease that suggested years of specialized training. "Did you see that?" Hayes whispered to the recruit beside her. "That is not standard technique. That is something else." Donovan overheard, his face darkening. When his turn came, he attacked the course with aggression rather than strategy. Halfway through, struggling over the climbing wall, he felt his strength flagging in the heat. Thorne appeared beside him. "Control your breathing," she instructed calmly. "Efficiency over power." Donovan hauled himself over, dropping heavily on the other side. "With respect, Master Sergeant," he said, emphasizing her title with the barest hint of sarcasm. "My father and grandfather were both decorated rangers. I think I know how to handle myself in combat." Thorne's expression remained neutral. "Then demonstrate it, Private." By the end of the course, Donovan had fallen behind several female recruits, including Hayes. His time exceeded the objective by nearly 4 minutes. His uniform was soaked with sweat, his face flushed with humiliation as much as exertion. During the water break, an unexpected training explosion from the artillery range sent several recruits flinching. Hayes, always observant, noticed Thorne's hand move reflexively to her hip, where a sidearm would be carried in the combat situations. A movement so quick, most would miss it. Just as quickly, Thorne's hand returned to her side, her composure unbroken. In the mess hall that evening, Donovan held court at a table of mostly male recruits. "Did you see how she moved through that course?" he asked loudly enough to carry to nearby tables. "Something is not right. Women do not train like that unless they are trying to prove something. Or unless they are good at their job," Hayes remarked as she passed with her tray. Donovan's eyes narrowed. "Nobody asked you, Hayes. Everything all right here?" Sergeant Winters had appeared seemingly from nowhere, her presence immediately straightening spines around the table. "Yes, Sergeant," the recruits replied in unison. As Winters walked away, she caught sight of Thorne eating alone at a corner table. She changed course, sliding her tray opposite the Master Sergeant. "The Donovan kid is becoming a problem," Winters said without preamble. "His father is a colonel at Pentagon, thinks that gives his son special privileges." Thorne nodded. "I have handled worse." "Have you?" Winters studied her with open curiosity. "Rumor has it you came from somewhere specialized." Thorne took a deliberate bite of her meal. "There are a lot of rumors in the Army." "True," Winters conceded, "but most do not come with the kind of redacted file you have." As Thorne stood to leave, the collar of her uniform shifted slightly, revealing the edge of what appeared to be a tattoo just below her collarbone. Winters caught only a glimpse, what might have been the point of a trident, before Thorne adjusted her collar and walked away. The next morning brought hand-to-hand combat training. Recruits gathered in the training facility, standing in formation on padded mats as Thorne explained basic defensive techniques. "In combat, you may find yourself at a disadvantage in size or strength," she said, scanning the faces before her. "These techniques allow you to use an opponent's energy against them. I need a volunteer to demonstrate." Before anyone could step forward, Donovan pushed through the front line of recruits. "I volunteer, Master Sergeant," he said, a challenging smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Whispers rippled through the formation. Thorne nodded once. "Very well, Private Donovan." As they squared off on the mat, Donovan spoke loudly enough for all to hear. "Let us see if these techniques work against someone who is not holding back." The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Training was one thing. This was clearly becoming something else. From the doorway, Captain Blackwood appeared, drawn by some sixth sense that trouble was brewing among his recruits. Thorne's expression revealed nothing as she instructed. "Attempt to grab me in a frontal assault." Donovan lunged forward. What happened next occurred so quickly that many recruits would later debate exactly what they had seen. Donovan, rather than executing the standard training grab, attempted to seize Thorne in a way that would have been humiliating, hands reaching for her upper body in a clear violation of training protocol. There was an audible gasp from the formation. In the fraction of a second that followed, something transformed in Thorne's demeanor. Her eyes sharpened with lethal focus, and her body moved with a mechanical precision that seemed to operate on instinct rather than thought. She sidestepped Donovan's grab with effortless ease, simultaneously capturing his leading arm. Using his forward momentum against him, she executed a flawless counter that rotated his body through his compromised balance point. Before anyone fully registered what was happening, Donovan was face down on the mat, his arms secured behind him in a submission hold that offered no possibility of escape without risking injury. The room fell into stunned silence. Donovan's face registered shock, then pain, then humiliation, as he desperately tapped the mat, the universal signal of submission. During the maneuver, Thorne's sleeve had pulled back, revealing what Private Hayes immediately recognized as a Naval Special Warfare Trident tattoo, the distinctive emblem awarded only to those who completed the most elite and demanding training program in the U.S. military. She is a SEAL, Hayes whispered in disbelief. She was a damn SEAL. The whisper spread through the formation like wildfire. Several recruits had already pulled out phones, capturing the aftermath of the takedown, despite regulations against recording during training. Thorne released the hold with the same precision she had applied it, standing smoothly while Donovan remained on the mat, catching his breath. When she offered her hand to help him up, he hesitated before taking it. "There is a difference between confidence and arrogance, Private," she said quietly, though in the silence her words carried. "One keeps you alive in combat, the other gets your team killed." Donovan's face flushed deep red as he stood. "My father will hear about this," he muttered. "Good," Thorne responded, her voice calm but carrying enough to reach every ear in the room. "Tell him his son encountered someone who values competence over legacy. The battlefield does not care who your father is." Captain Blackwood stepped forward from the doorway where he had witnessed everything. "Master Sergeant Thorne," he said, his voice cutting through the tension. "My office. Now." The captain turned and left without waiting for acknowledgement. Thorne addressed Sergeant Winters, who had been assisting with the training session. "Continue with the defensive techniques demonstration, Sergeant." As Thorne followed Blackwood out, the formation remained frozen until Winters' voice cracked like a whip. "Eyes front. The next recruit who touches a phone instead of paying attention will be doing push-ups until dinner." By evening, the video had spread throughout Fort Artemis. By midnight, it had reached military message boards across all branches. By dawn, it had been picked up by mainstream news outlets with headlines ranging from "Female drill instructor demonstrates," "Perfect takedown of aggressive recruit," to more sensationalized versions, questioning gender integration policies in the military. Captain Blackwood's office was silent except for the audio from his computer, where a national news program played footage of the incident, clearly recorded and shared by one of the recruits. "The Pentagon has not officially commented on the viral video," the reporter was saying, "but sources within the military suggest this may renew debate about combat roles for female service members. The identity of the drill instructor has not been released, though social media users claim to have identified the distinctive tattoo visible in the video as belonging to an elite special operations unit." Blackwood closed the video window and looked across his desk at Thorne, who sat with perfect military posture, her expression unreadable. "I received 3 calls from the Pentagon this morning," he said. 2 were complaints about your handling of Colonel Donovan's son." Thorne maintained her composure. "And the third?" "The third was from Naval Special Warfare Command, reminding me that certain aspects of your service record remain classified." Blackwood leaned back in his chair. "They are sending someone to contain this situation. Sir, with respect, I was defending myself while maintaining training protocols." "I know. That is why you are not being disciplined." Blackwood sighed, rubbing his temples. "The truth is, Thorne, we requested you specifically. Fort Artemis has been resistant to female integration in combat roles. The brass thought having someone with your background might change perspectives." Thorne's eyebrows raised slightly, the first genuine surprise she had shown. "You knew?" "Not everything, but enough." Blackwood slid a folder across the desk. "This is a request for you to develop a new advanced hand-to-hand combat program, specifically acknowledging differences in size and strength, and how to overcome them with proper technique." Thorne opened the folder, scanning its contents. "This was prepared before yesterday's incident. Like I said, we requested you specifically." Blackwood stood, indicating the meeting was concluded. "The Pentagon liaison arrives tomorrow. Until then, continue your regular duties." As Thorne left the administrative building, Private Hayes approached, standing at attention until acknowledged. "At ease, Private. What is it?" "Master Sergeant, the unit wanted you to know. We deleted our copies of the video." Thorne raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "It is already viral." "Because we respect you," Hayes replied simply. "And because whatever you did before coming here, we figured there is a reason it is not public knowledge." For the first time, Thorne's professional mask slipped slightly, revealing genuine appreciation. "Thank you, Private. That is considerate." Hayes hesitated, then added, "Permission to speak freely, Master Sergeant?" "Granted. Most of us joined to serve something bigger than ourselves. Seeing you yesterday, it reminded us what that really means." Hayes straightened. "That is all, Master Sergeant." Thorne nodded once. Dismissed, Private. As Hayes walked away, Thorne noticed Sergeant Winters approaching from the barracks area. Donovan is packing, Winters said without preamble. Transfer or discharge? Thorne asked. Neither, Winters replied. He requested reassignment to advanced training, said he needed to earn his place rather than rely on his name. Thorne's expression revealed mild surprise. Unexpected. He is in Barracks C if you want to speak with him. Winters studied Thorne's reaction. For what it is worth, I think yesterday might have been the best thing that ever happened to him. After a moment's consideration, Thorne made her way to Barracks C. Donovan was alone, folding uniforms into a standard-issue duffel. He straightened immediately when she entered. Master Sergeant, he acknowledged, standing at attention. At ease, Private. Thorne observed the half-packed bag. Sergeant Winters tells me you have requested reassignment. Donovan nodded, some of his earlier arrogance notably absent. Yes, Master Sergeant. May I ask why? Donovan hesitated, choosing his words carefully. I called my father last night. Not to complain, to tell him I had encountered someone whose skill deserves recognition, not challenge. He met her eyes directly. He suggested I might learn more by seeking more advanced training, rather than relying on his connections. That is a mature decision. I have been acting like I already earned something I have not. Donovan's admission seemed to cost him, but he continued. Yesterday made that clear. Thorne considered him for a long moment. Your transfer request is denied. Surprise registered on Donovan's face. Ma'am, I am developing a new advanced combat training program here at Fort Artemis. Given your enthusiasm for testing techniques, I think you would be a valuable participant. Understanding dawned on Donovan's face, followed by the first genuine smile Thorne had seen from him. I would be honored, Master Sergeant. Report to Training Facility B at 0600 tomorrow. Do not be late. As Thorne turned to leave, Donovan called after her. Master Sergeant? She paused at the doorway. Thank you, he said simply. Thorne allowed herself a small nod of acknowledgement before departing. The following morning, Captain Blackwood summoned Thorne to meet the Pentagon liaison. She expected a stern official prepared to manage fallout from the viral video. Instead, she found Commander Julian Reese, Naval Special Warfare, sitting casually in Blackwood's office. Master Sergeant Thorne, Reese stood, offering his hand. It has been a while. Thorne maintained her professional demeanor despite the unexpected familiar face. Commander Reese, I did not expect to see you here. When your name came up in connection with the video, I volunteered. Figured you might prefer dealing with someone who understands the full context. Reese turned to Blackwood. The Master Sergeant and I have history. She was part of an operation my team supported in 2019. Blackwood nodded. I will leave you two to discuss. My office is yours. He departed, closing the door behind him. You are looking well, Thorne, Reese said once they were alone. Army life suits you. It is different, she replied neutrally. Why are you really here, Commander? Reese's expression turned serious. The video has created some complications. Your tattoo is visible in several frames. Naval Special Warfare is concerned about potential exposure of your previous service. My status was never classified, just the operations. True, but you were one of the first women to complete Bud S and qualify as a SEAL. Your identity has been carefully protected, both for operational security and to avoid making you a target for public attention. Reese gestured to the computer on Blackwood's desk. Now, there are internet forums trying to identify you. Thorne processed this information. What does Naval Special Warfare want me to do? For now, continue your current assignment. We are working with social media platforms to remove identifying details from the video. Captain Blackwood mentioned the new combat training program you are developing. Reese smiled slightly. It seems you have found a way to use your expertise while maintaining cover. It was not planned this way. The best ops rarely go according to plan. Reese leaned forward. There is something else, Thorne. The Joint Chiefs have taken notice of this incident. It has reignited discussion about women in elite combat roles. Thorne's expression remained carefully neutral. I am just doing my job, sir. I know. That is why it matters. Reese stood. Keep me updated on the training program. I will handle the media side of things. And Thorne, off the record, that was one hell of a takedown. After Reese departed, Thorne took a moment to gather her thoughts before heading to Training Facility B for the first session of the new program. The 20 selected recruits, including Hayes and Donovan, were already waiting in formation when she arrived. This program will be unlike standard training, she began without preamble. You have been selected based on aptitude, attitude, and potential. What you learn here goes beyond basic hand-to-hand combat. This is about understanding how to neutralize threats regardless of physical disparities. For the next hour, she demonstrated techniques that few Army instructors would recognize, carefully adapted from her special operations training. The recruits were fully engaged, particularly Hayes, who seemed to grasp concepts almost intuitively. During a water break, Donovan approached her. "Master Sergeant, may I ask a question?" "Proceed." "These techniques, they are not standard Army. Are they based on your previous experience?" Thorne studied him, assessing his intent. "They are adapted from various combat systems. Effectiveness is what matters, not source." Donovan nodded, accepting the deflection. "Thank you, Master Sergeant. They are effective." As training continued over the following days, word spread throughout Fort Artemis about the specialized program. Other instructors began observing sessions, incorporating elements into their own training. Captain Blackwood reported increased requests for transfer to the base, specifically citing interest in the new combat methodologies. 1 week after the incident, Sergeant Winters joined Thorne for morning coffee in the instructor's mess. "Your program is changing things around here," Winters observed. "I have never seen recruits this motivated." "They were always capable," Thorne replied. "They just needed the right approach." "It is more than that." Winters leaned closer. "You have changed how they see themselves, especially the female recruits." Hayes is talking about applying to Ranger School after basic training. Thorne allowed herself a small smile. "She would do well there." "Because of you," Winters pressed. "You have shown them what is possible. I have just given them tools. They will determine what is possible." Their conversation was interrupted by Captain Blackwood, who approached with a grave expression. "Master Sergeant, my office, please." Once there, Blackwood closed the door and activated a privacy screen on his computer. "We have a situation. Someone has identified you from the video. A reporter is asking questions about your service record." Thorne remained composed. "What specifically are they asking?" "Whether you were part of a classified program integrating women into special operations roles." They claim to have a source inside the Pentagon. Blackwood's concern was evident. "Commander Reese has been notified, but I wanted to alert you directly." "Thank you, sir. I appreciate that." "Thorne, I need to know, how sensitive is this information? Are we dealing with a security breach?" She considered carefully before answering. "The program itself is not classified, though specific operations were. My participation was not widely known, but was not officially secret. The concern would be exposing operational details or other team members." Blackwood nodded. "I will coordinate with Commander Reese on response. In the meantime, continue with the training program. We cannot appear reactive." That afternoon, as Thorne supervised combat drills, she noticed a change in the recruit's demeanor. Whispered conversations stopped when she approached. Glances followed her movements more attentively than usual. After dismissing the class, she found Hayes waiting. "Permission to speak freely, Master Sergeant?" "Granted." "There is a story circulating online about you." Hayes hesitated. "It claims you were one of the first female Navy SEALs, part of a secret integration program." Thorne maintained her neutral expression. "And what do you think about that, Private?" "I think," Hayes said carefully, "that whoever you were before coming here, you are making us better soldiers now. The rest is not our business." Thorne studied the young recruit, recognizing something of herself in Hayes's determined gaze. "That is a wise perspective, Private." That evening, Thorne sat alone in her quarters, reviewing the day's events. Her phone lit up with a secure message from Commander Reese. Story contained. Source identified and addressed. Proceed with training program as planned. Higher levels taking interest in results. She set the phone down, considering the implications. What had begun as a simple training assignment, a way to quietly continue serving after leaving special operations, had evolved into something with potentially broader impact. The viral video, while creating security complications, had also opened doors for discussions about combat roles that might otherwise have remained closed. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Captain Blackwood stood outside, holding a folder. "New orders," he said without preamble. "The combat training program has been officially recognized by Army Training Command. They want to expand it to other bases." Thorne accepted the folder. That was fast. The video accelerated interest. Blackwood's expression was unreadable. "They want you to develop the full curriculum and train other instructors." "I see. There is something else." Blackwood handed her a second, thinner folder with a classified stamp. "This came directly from Naval Special Warfare. Commander Reese said you would understand its significance." Alone again, Thorne opened the classified folder. Inside was a brief memo authorizing her to incorporate specific elements of her specialized training into the Army program, effectively declassifying techniques that had previously been restricted to elite units. The memo concluded, "Your actions have demonstrated the value of integrated training approaches. The Joint Chiefs have approved expansion of the program under your direction. This represents a significant step in evolving combat readiness across service branches." Thorne closed the folder, allowing herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The path forward was becoming clear, one that would allow her to bridge her past experience with her current role in ways she had not anticipated. The changes at Fort Artemis were just the beginning. 2 weeks later, the Advanced Combat Training Program was in full operation. What had begun as a small specialized class had expanded as word spread throughout Fort Artemis. Thorne had selected 20 recruits, including both Hayes and Donovan, for the initial program. The training facility had been reconfigured for the specialized instruction. Thorne moved among the recruits as they practiced defensive techniques in pairs, offering corrections and demonstrations where needed. "Use your opponent's momentum," she instructed. "Physical strength is an advantage, but technique can neutralize it." From the observation area, a distinguished visitor watched the training session with evident interest. Commander Julian Reese, Naval Special Warfare Liaison, had returned to evaluate the program's progress. His presence had initially caused tension among the base leadership, but after closed-door meetings with Captain Blackwood, the atmosphere had relaxed considerably. Thorne had been briefed to expect him at today's training, though she gave no indication of awareness as she continued instruction. Only after dismissing the recruits did she approach the observation area. "Commander," she acknowledged with a crisp salute. "Master Sergeant Thorne," he returned. "Impressive program you have developed here." "Thank you, sir." "Walk with me," Reese suggested, gesturing toward the exit. Outside, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parade ground. They walked in silence for several moments before Reese spoke again. "You have caused quite a stir, Thorne." "That was not my intention, sir." "I know," Reese nodded. "But intentions and outcomes do not always align. That is something you understand better than most." The oblique reference to her previous service hung between them. Thorne waited, knowing there was more to come. "The Joint Chiefs are reconsidering combat integration policies based partly on what happened here," Reese continued. "Your actions may have changed more than just this base. The recruits were ready for change, sir. They just needed to see it was possible. They are learning quickly," he observed. "They always could," she replied. "They just needed to see that ability transcends gender or background." Reese stopped walking, turning to face her directly. "Naval Special Warfare is establishing a new training initiative for female operators, not for public knowledge yet, but authorized at the highest levels. They want you to consult on the program development." Thorne carefully controlled her expression. "I am currently assigned to Army training, sir." "Inter-service cooperation," Reese smiled slightly. "Your unique experience makes you valuable to both branches. This would not be a transfer, more like additional duties. Temporary consulting while maintaining your position here." "May I ask why now?" "You know why," Reese replied frankly. "That video demonstrated something many have argued was not possible. It has created an opening that might not last." Thorne considered this. "I will need to review the program parameters before committing, sir." "Of course. Full briefing packet is with Captain Blackwood." Reese extended his hand. "For what it is worth, I think you are exactly who we need for this. Someone who has been there, done it, without seeking recognition." As they shook hands, Reese added more quietly, "Your previous team would be proud of what you are building here." The comment landed with unexpected weight. Thorne had deliberately avoided thinking about her former unit, about the classified operation that had ultimately led to her transfer to conventional forces. The reminder brought a brief flash of faces, men and women, with whom she had served in shadows, whose actions would never be publicly acknowledged. "Thank you, sir," she managed. After Reese departed, Thorne found herself standing alone on the parade ground as sunset approached. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to fully remember not just her training as one of the first female operators to complete the SEAL qualification course, but the missions that followed, the weight of responsibility, the split-second decisions with lives in the balance, the successes that could never be celebrated, and the losses that could never be mourned publicly. She touched the trident tattoo beneath her uniform, a reminder of what she had accomplished and what it had cost. "Master Sergeant," Thorne turned to find Sergeant Winters approaching through the gathering dusk. "Training ran late," Winters observed. "The recruits seem motivated." "They are." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the colors deepen across the sky. Finally, Winters spoke again. "Commander Reese shared some of his conversation with me about the new initiative." Thorne raised an eyebrow. "That was quick. He thought you might want to discuss it with someone." Winters hesitated. "For what it is worth, I think you should do it." "Why?" "Because you have already changed things here more than you realize." Winters gestured toward the barracks in the distance. Donovan was not the only one who adjusted his perspective. "The entire culture is shifting. One incident does not change a culture." "No," Winters replied, "but it can start the process." She offered a rare smile. "You never wanted recognition for what you did before coming here, did you?" "That was not why I served," Thorne replied simply. The next morning, Thorne observed her advanced class from a new perspective. She saw not just recruits following instructions, but future leaders absorbing principles that would shape their approach to service. Hayes, showing natural aptitude for teaching, as she helped another recruit perfect a technique. Donovan, his previous arrogance transformed into focused determination. After class, Thorne found Captain Blackwood waiting in her office with the briefing packet from Commander Reese. "I have reviewed it," Blackwood said without preamble. "It is a significant opportunity." Thorne nodded. "For the program, yes. For you too," Blackwood added. "Recognition of your capabilities." "That was never my priority, sir." "I know," Blackwood smiled slightly. "That is precisely why you are the right person for it." He placed the folder on her desk. "Whatever you decide, your position here remains secure. Fort Artemis needs what you are building." Later that day, Thorne walked the length of the base, observing the subtle but significant changes that had occurred in recent weeks. Female and male recruits, training together with newfound mutual respect. Instructors incorporating techniques that acknowledge different physical attributes without compromising standards. Even the most resistant old guard sergeants beginning to adapt their approaches. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unlisted number, her former commanding officer from her classified unit. "Heard about the new initiative. The door you have opened will benefit many who follow. Well done." The simple acknowledgement from someone who knew the full extent of her service history carried weight that no public recognition ever could. As she reached the top of the hill overlooking Fort Artemis, Thorne made her decision. She would accept the consulting role while maintaining her position here. The culture shift had begun, but needed continued guidance to become permanent. Meanwhile, she could help shape a program that would create opportunities she had fought so hard to access. The following day, Thorne met with Captain Blackwood to formalize her acceptance of the consulting role. As they concluded, Blackwood handed her an unexpected envelope. "This came directly from the Pentagon," he explained. "Personal communication from the Secretary of Defense." Inside was a brief, handwritten note. "What you have accomplished, both in your previous service and at Fort Artemis, represents the future of our military. Your willingness to serve without recognition embodies the highest values of the armed forces. The changes you have initiated will outlast us all." It was signed simply with the Secretary's initials. Thorne carefully refolded the note, touched by the personal acknowledgement, but more concerned with the practical work ahead. She had a training session to prepare for. That afternoon, as she supervised hand-to-hand combat drills, she noticed Private Hayes performing a particularly complex technique with remarkable precision. It was a move Thorne had demonstrated only once, adapted from her specialized training. "Hold," Thorne called, approaching Hayes. "Where did you learn that variation?" Hayes straightened. "I observed how you executed it, Master Sergeant. I have been practicing during off hours. Thorne studied the young recruit. That technique requires specific weight distribution and timing. Most soldiers take weeks to master it. I have good teachers, Hayes replied simply. Thorne nodded, recognizing something familiar in Hayes's dedication. After training, I would like to speak with you about additional opportunities. Later, in her office, Thorne laid out options for Hayes's future training path. Your aptitude is exceptional, she explained. With your permission, I would like to recommend you for special advanced training after completion of basics. What kind of training, Master Sergeant? The kind that challenges conventional limitations, Thorne replied carefully. The kind that might eventually lead to opportunities that were not previously available to female soldiers. Understanding dawned on Hayes's face. Like your path, Master Sergeant? A different path, Thorne corrected, but with similar possibilities. Hayes sat straighter. I would be honored, Master Sergeant. After Hayes departed, Thorne updated her training notes, adding recommendations for several other recruits who had shown particular promise. Among them, somewhat surprisingly, was Donovan, whose initial arrogance had transformed into focused determination and a willingness to learn that Thorne had not anticipated. Her office door opened without a knock. Commander Reese entered, followed by Captain Blackwood. Master Sergeant, Reese said, we have a situation that requires your expertise. Blackwood closed the door. A congressional delegation is arriving tomorrow to observe the training program. Word has reached Washington about the changes here. They want to see firsthand. Thorne maintained her composure despite her surprise. My program is still in development. We are not prepared for official observation. That is precisely why they are coming, Reese explained. They want to see the authentic process, not a polished presentation. This could mean significant expansion of the program, Blackwood added, and additional resources. Thorne considered the implications. I will prepare the recruits, but I would prefer to run a standard training session rather than a demonstration. Agreed, Reese nodded. They should see the real work, not a performance. The next morning, the training facility had been subtly reorganized to accommodate observers without disrupting the session. The congressional delegation, accompanied by several high-ranking military officers, arrived with minimal fanfare and took positions along the observation area. Thorne conducted the class exactly as planned, focusing on techniques that neutralize size and strength advantages. When the time came for partner demonstrations, she paired Hayes with Donovan, a deliberate choice to highlight how technical proficiency could overcome physical disparity. The observers watched intently as Hayes repeatedly countered Donovan's stronger attacks, using precision and leverage rather than force. The transformation in Donovan was equally evident, his movements controlled and respectful, focused on technical execution rather than dominance. After the session concluded, the delegation met privately with Captain Blackwood and Commander Reese. Thorne was later summoned to join them. Master Sergeant Thorne, the senior congresswoman greeted her. Your program is impressive. We have been discussing potential implementation across all service branches. Thank you, ma'am. The credit belongs to the recruit's dedication. Perhaps, the congresswoman smiled, but vision and leadership create the conditions for success. She turned to her colleagues. I believe we have seen what we needed to see. As the delegation prepared to depart, one of the military officers, a 4-star general, approached Thorne privately. 20 years ago, I would have said what you were doing was impossible, he admitted quietly. I was wrong. What you have built here will change our military's future capabilities. Thorne maintained her professional demeanor. Thank you, sir. That is the goal. That evening, Fort Artemis held a small reception for the training cadre. The mood was celebratory, with Captain Blackwood announcing official approval for program expansion. Beginning next month, Fort Artemis will host instructors from other bases to learn these techniques, he announced. Master Sergeant Thorne will oversee their training. As congratulations circulated, Sergeant Winters approached Thorne with 2 glasses of punch. To quiet revolutions, she toasted softly. Later, Thorne found a moment alone on the parade ground, the same spot where she had conducted her first inspection weeks earlier. The base looked different now, not in its physical structure, but in its energy and purpose. She thought about the path that had brought her here, From her groundbreaking training as one of the first female SEALs through classified operations to her current role shaping the future of combat training, none of it had been planned, yet all of it seemed, in retrospect, inevitable. The sound of footsteps made her turn. Hayes approached, stopping at a respectful distance. "Master Sergeant, may I ask a personal question?" "You may ask. I may not answer." "Was it worth it? Everything you went through to become who you are?" Thorne considered the question, its simplicity belying its depth. "It was never about me, Private. It was about creating possibilities that did not exist before." Hayes nodded, understanding. "Like what you are doing now." "Exactly like that." Thorne gestured toward the base. "What matters is not who gets credit, but what changes remain after we are gone." As Hayes returned to the barracks, Thorne remained a moment longer, watching the stars emerge above Fort Artemis. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new resistance to overcome, new minds to change. But tonight, she allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction in what had already been accomplished. Not for recognition, not for history, but for all those who would follow the paths being cleared now, one training session at a time. That had always been enough. Have you ever known someone who never asked for recognition, but deserved more than anyone else?